Hi, I am Everett Maxine, the host and creator of the Absence of Her podcast, birthed July 2019 in the memory of my mother, who was found deceased June 19th, 2018. I share my life experiences to let others know they are not alone. Over the past few years, I spoke mainly from a place of pain during the beginning of my grief journey. As I am learning to navigate the journey and help listeners as well, I relaunched to share from a positive space of purpose. Back in the spring of 2025, I was randomly led to take a social media break. On Friday, March 14th, I logged off of Facebook, Instagram, and got rid of TikTok. Life was already challenging, and the intake of social media was just overwhelming. Last year, God also allowed me to birth a community named after my podcast. If you are a teen girl or woman who has experienced the loss and or absence of a mother and seeking community, please go to our website, www.theabsenceofhercommunity.org, and complete the interest form. I would love to know how you could benefit from community and connection, because grief is a journey better done with community. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and most importantly, share. I am Everett Maxine. I hold 3 degrees: an associate's in environmental health and safety from Texas State Technical College, a bachelor's in interdisciplinary studies from Texas Southern, in which I also have a teacher certification for math, science, grades 4 through 8, and I completed my master's in interdisciplinary studies from Texas Tech. Due to my positive experience with therapy, I decided to also pursue an additional master's in counseling. I was accepted to Dallas Theological Seminary June 2023, while on my second international mission trip to Africa. As a missionary, I've had the opportunity to leave the United States 3 times. I visited Gales Point, Belize, March 2023, Kenya, Africa, June 2023, and went to Prague in the Czech Republic, August 2024. I became a published author upon my return from my last mission trip and published my second book, February 2025. July 2019, I became the host of this podcast in memory of my mother. My voice has been heard in more than half the United States and a few countries abroad. Last year, March 2024, I became a founder of a nonprofit organization. I previously served in youth ministry at my local church. I am currently an educator. I have done a lot, accomplished a lot, but what I have realized most, I haven't arrived yet. Even right now, I just stopped from crying because I haven't learned how to leave the heavy things to God and just take a knee. Knowing that I haven't arrived yet, that had to be one of the most discouraging revelations at 45 years of age. After all of the prayers, the efforts, the goal setting, and accomplishments, my life is still far from being together. And if I'm honest, when it comes to my faith, my friendships, my finances, and my future, I'm not even sure what together looks like. I remember texting my good friend from college and making the statement, I thought at some point life was supposed to just plateau. You know, when you get to be adult, you think things are, routine, or I don't know. You shouldn't be constantly weathering storms. But she laughed and she asked, who told me that? I really believe that You have the needs: cars, shelter, stable income. Life will normalize itself, and the hills, valleys, and rare bounty experiences disappear. Life would be on autopilot and auto pay, and things would be good. When it comes to my faith, I have had a relationship with God since the age of 10 years old. No one forced me to attend church. Losing my great aunt LV left a void in my life that only the Holy Spirit could fill. Now at the age 45, I have been questioning, what do I get out of attending church service? And I felt it interesting as I am now questioning why I attend church. I saw a clip from, I think, the Jude 3 Project, where they asked, is Christianity bad for your mental health? Because we try to live by the word of God, correct? And sometimes trying to meet those expectations, it makes it harder to voice your challenges because you think, I'm a believer. I shouldn't be going through the same things as people in the world. Or at least we tell ourselves that. I began questioning, why do I attend church? Why do I believe in Jesus? Even what I really believe. For a majority of 2025, I didn't feel any spiritual growth from the Sunday sermons. I would still show up and serve with the media ministry and socialize with my church family. Most Sundays, I attend all 3 services. And then I considered not going at all for some reason, but I still do. I've considered that maybe I have reached a place of comfort in my spiritual walk. Whereas I used to study my physical Bible for hours and sometimes prepare messages, I traded my physical Bible for the Bible app. I went from seeking the daily devotions as my feeding of the word, and over time, I can't even make time to read scripture a day. I do not think ignorance is cute, yet I feel like I have become biblically illiterate in a short amount of time and zero motivation to return to my former ways. After 35 years of the faith, I never thought I would become one of those people where my faith would only seem like a Sunday service. I guess when it comes to my faith, I haven't arrived yet. As a Christian, there is no point of completion while on this earth. That is why we are taught to seek God daily. But then sometimes I wonder, what does God think about my doubts? Do my thoughts disappoint him? What if I die unsure? Will I still be saved and go to heaven? It's a lot to think about. But I know that ultimately my faith resides in Jesus Christ. So as we go into this new year, and Happy New Year to all of my listeners, I have considered this the year of submission. Submission to God and what he expects of me, and not necessarily the expectations of people. Friendships. It seems I'm not in this boat alone. As I view social media and I see posts, of people trying to connect with others and the friendship groups and the trouble people are having with in-person connections. I don't know if it's COVID, where people got used to virtual interactions, or have people just lost the inability to connect or really don't care to connect with one another. I have traveled to other countries and felt I didn't meet a stranger. But here, around people I know or know of, it seems like connecting is very challenging. A prayer for me that was an exercise of faith was about friendships. Well, maybe a couple of prayers. After the passing of my mother, I also got divorced, and my divorce was finalized November 5th of 2018. And one of the things that I realized is that I spent a lot of time with my husband. Now, that is not a bad thing, but once we were divorced, and the pastor that I previously had, he talked about a sermon in which he said, the me and we, and how important it is for spouses to have friends of their own and do things separately to make sure you are poured into so that the we is strong. And I didn't understand that. I always wanted to be up under him if he wanted to do things separate from me. It made me very heartbroken. It made me very angry. At times it made me jealous because I did not build a community outside of him. Even with my mother, when I did things with family or went to visit her church, a lot of things when it came to connecting with people were through her. And so in 2018, when my divorce was finalized and my mother passed away, it left me feeling very alone. After a few years of being single, I began to desire authentic friendships, especially with women. As a child, I didn't feel much of a need to connect with my peers. While they wanted to make mud pies and get sweaty playing hide and seek, I wanted to stay inside and read books and do math problems. My divorce became finalized that same year, and that kind of took away a buffer with the public. Like, I literally didn't even know our neighbors because my husband would go introduce himself. At 37, I was trying to learn to interact with people. I am 45 now. But the tricky thing about people, they change. Sometimes without a word or a reason, they begin to treating you like their worst enemy. A good portion of the time, I'm excited to sit home in my quiet apartment, wrapped in my heated blanket, sipping on a hot, sweet cup of coffee, because that's exactly what I'm doing now. Yes, I am one of those people that adds coffee to their sugar. As I grow in fellowshipping, networking, and connecting with others, I have begun to realize the desire for authentic friendship is not just isolated to me. It's not okay to set expectations of friends, so I don't expect friends to be just like me or have the same desires. And one of the things that I like to share that I learned in therapy is knowing what type of friend you have. There are friends that you pour into. There are friends that pour into you. And there are friends that walk alongside you. And knowing what type of friend that you have lets you understand the connection you have. Because sometimes we get upset that we're pouring into this person and you're like, oh, they don't pour anything valuable into my life, or I'm always being there for them and they're not there for me. And we have different gifts and different capacities. And that might not be why they're your friend to pour into you. But I do have a few non-negotiables. And maybe that's why my connections are a little bit difficult. One, you must be accountable for your actions. I find that adults don't like to be accountable. I'm one of those people, like, if you want to do something and I ask, let your yes be yes, your no be no. It's okay. My feelings won't be hurt. If it's something you don't like to do or you're not into, or hey, you're like, hey, we're not vibing right now, I'm okay with the honesty. I prefer the honesty than you ghosting or not responding or making up some silly excuse. You must respect boundaries without questions. that, not saying don't question the friendship. So one of the things that I don't like is group texting. I absolutely hate it because my job has group chats and so many, and in church we have group chats, and it so much goes on with group texting because somebody is going to text in the middle of the night. Now I have a phone where I can kind of silence that, but a lot happens in a group text. And sometimes I know I was a part of one where one person would always be talking to this other person and more frequently than the others. And it's like, how about y'all just message each other? And so that's one of my boundaries. And I hate for a person to be like, but if you would just do this, if you would just do that, if you would just add the group. And it's like, that's my boundary for my peace. And so that's one of the things that it's like, don't question if a person says, hey, don't call me after 6 p.m. Respect that they don't want to be called after 6 p.m. You don't know what they got going on in their life. And my last one, don't ask me to change up who I am to suit your comforts. I am not a girly girl. I don't do the wig and the lashes and the makeup. And I had a friend one time that was, and she had good intentions, and I had to explain why I was like I was. And she wanted me to try some red lipstick. And I'm not a makeup person. In complete transparency, YouTube taught me how to apply makeup at age 21 because I was beginning my teacher job. And so she wanted me to try this red lipstick, and like she was just really pushing the issue, and it like made me cry. And she doesn't know that, but it made me cry because makeup is just not my thing, and I wasn't ready for that. It was like I keep it simple, I keep it natural. And so I ended up explaining my journey with makeup, and that is part of one of the things why I created the nonprofit. Especially to include the teen girls, because although my mother did her best, she worked a lot. So a lot of the things that I needed as a teen girl, and she wasn't big on the girly girl things either. I didn't have any big sisters, or most of my girl cousins were a lot older than me to teach me those things. And so at times I got made fun of. And my first attempts at makeups were not the best. And so, just understanding why people are like they are and accepting them for who they are. Yeah. But sometimes I really laugh at myself for my desire for connection. Because when I am invited to social events, I choose being out a lot over an outing. Yes, I know I must work on that. You can't build friendships if you're unwilling to show up for others. But sometimes I really want to show up, but I'm a middle school teacher, and this is my second year teaching math, and it is so draining. And so Monday through Friday, I'm working. My commute is about an hour. And so I get up at 4 a.m. By the time I get home, it's close to 6 p.m. And I'm trying to handle what I need to handle and go to bed. Saturday is basically my free day. Try to sleep a little late. And then Sunday, I give my time at church. And so my week is pretty, busy. And it's just, I don't even know how you make the time for outings. But I'm going to leave that prayer in God's hands, and I'm going to put it on my prayer board again for 2026. Authentic friendships. And maybe God will send some good women, understanding women, to walk alongside me to help build those friendships. Finances. Oh my gosh. As we say, adulting is ghetto. So I heard a little something by Jill Scott the other day that I decided to make note of when she talked about work. And she said, work hard in your 20s. Work smart in your 30s. Work how you want to in your 40s. Work when you want to in your 50s. And work if you want to in your 60s. So that was her plan for her life. Now, I'm now in my 40s. I don't necessarily work how I want to, because now at 45, I'm really trying to embrace the thought of a career change. If that's going to happen, I don't know. I have a very stable career, and a decent income, so that makes it very challenging to switch up. As a child, I never dreamed of being adult, but I did want my own place to burn the air conditioning to my comfort level. As a teenager, I grew up in a house with that old school paneling and window units. If you have never heard of paneling, it looks like wood, but it's very thin, and it lined the walls of our older home. In my teens, my room consisted of paneling without insulation. So during the South Texas summers, it was hot. Our window units were located in the living room, dining room, and our parents' room. And to turn any of them on, I had asked my father's permission. John Henry became my father when I was 16 years old. We were like oil and water. Until he kind of grew on me as an adult. He gained his wings July 12, 2014. Although I lived on my own and had been married for several years before the passing of both my parents, I have found that adulting, no matter the amount of challenges and planning, comes with unplanned financial challenges. So much for that plateau. I thought becoming an educator would lead me to a path of financial stability. And if I'm being honest, wealth. $58,000 to start was double what I used to make working security, and I had no idea the effect it would take on me mentally and physically. When I became a teacher, I ended therapy. Until I had a student get in my face behind her phone, shove me out of the way, and that sent me right back to my therapist and asking for medication. I felt defeated, and then wondering, did I really overcome? So when it comes to medication management, when my mother passed away, my therapist then, Nicole, asked me if I would try it for a little while. If you've never listened to my podcast, I'll give a little backstory. And so she asked me to try it for 3 months. At first, I was like, no, but I was having these situations where I would go to work and not even remember how I got home. Or I would wake up, park somewhere with my foot on the brake and the car running, which was very scary. Although I wasn't crying every day, mourning the loss of my mother, my body was apparently internalizing my grief. And so I took the medication. It worked for a while, but I didn't want to be dependent on that. So I committed to using the strategies that I used in therapy, and embracing life. Now, not knocking medication, but it was something that I knew that if I could apply the strategies, I didn't need to do long term. But once that student came at me, it had me so shook, my anxiety through the roof. The only way, because I couldn't quit my job, only way to survive was to be medicated. Unfortunately, 2 years later, on February 14th of 2023, I walked away from my teaching job with no plan. My certification wasn't sanctioned, but I spent several months in a very deep depression. I didn't have a plan. I didn't look for a job. And it was so bad when I moved. I just took what I could and left everything else behind. I don't think I had necessarily become a hoarder, but the house was in just such a disarray. I told myself, if you do not pick up and move, you will die here. I allowed the car that I had because, I thought making that big $58K, I could afford a nice car that I had to purchase due to a wreck. And the car note was $691.74 a month, not including insurance. I let them pick up the car. I moved into a pad split. It is a house that you rent the room and you don't, own the house. In this particular house, we had a maid that I paid $600 a month that included all the utilities, and I felt it was helping me mentally. I was not in the house alone. Just hearing other people talk gave me the opportunity to be around life. And it was helping pull me out of a very deep depression. I was able to purchase another car and was on the good foot. A friend offered me a job and I said, okay, but it was a huge pay cut. It was like $18 an hour. And so I did a couple of interviews and I said, I'm going to try. I didn't sacrifice as much as I did to become an educator to give up. So I went back to education. And as soon as the school year started, August of 2023, they started me the day before the students came to start their school year. I started having headaches. And as I look back and have the Facebook memories of me posting about these headaches, and then I started tracking the headaches. They were becoming stronger, more frequent. I was having to tell my students, be quiet while I'm trying to teach, and had to put my head on the desk. It was days that I could not get out of bed. And this went on for several months. And by December, I went to a doctor to get my eyes checked to make sure there was, nothing going on. And we just couldn't pin what it was. During Christmas break, I visited my cousin in Georgia, and just revisiting all of this is kind of making me a little emotional. I went to visit my cousin in Georgia, and on the way back, she had me bring her son back to Texas to be with her dad. We caught the flight together, and I had a horrible headache for 7 days. It made me very sick. And I believe it was January 2nd. We were supposed to go back to work for professional development. I said, no, I have got to get checked out. The first neurologist that I saw, this man gave me several trial medications, told me to try them all and tell him which one works. Well, that is stupid. Like, how am I you get the point. So the next day, the PCP that I still have to this day, Dr. Lay, who is amazing, we spoke. And she put me on leave from work for about 2 weeks so that we could investigate some things. She was noticing things that I was not. Like with these headaches, the difference in my motor skills, the difference in how I was communicating. And I believe it was January 18th when she said that I was going to be on leave till March. At this point, I'm like, what about my students? Because if you are a teacher out there, you know that there's routine, there's pattern, there's curriculum be covered that substitutes can't, well, they can, but most substitutes are not going to do with consistency. And they gave me a referral for a neurologist who I needed to see first before returning back to work. Thankfully, I had all the insurances from work and I was covered by FMLA and I was paid through short-term disability, even though it wasn't full pay. And it just takes me back to when I gave up the car and relocated and lessening my expenses, not knowing what was coming my way. I wouldn't have been able to afford to live had I remained where I was and with the vehicle that I had. But anywho, so they told me September 11th to see a neurologist. And I'm like, I got to stay in pain like this for how long? Prayed about it, called a couple more that were listed on my insurance plan. They moved the appointment up to May and then to April. In April, I was diagnosed with occipital neuralgia and had to do 3 sessions of injections of needles in the back of my head. There's something called the occipital nerves, and they were inflamed, and this helps it. Unfortunately, came June and the district was blowing up my phone and my email asking was I going to return to work. And my doctor's concern was I had just started treatment and she wasn't ready to sign off yet. I ended up having to resign due to the repeated pressure of them calling and emailing. So once again, I had to walk away from the career that I chose, that I worked hard for. But I didn't let that keep me down. In July, I felt well enough to sign up for another mission trip. Now, the original mission trip that I was taking was with another church. And at the last minute, I had the opportunity to go to the Czech Republic. Now, I've moved to another place, got stable, was able to save quite a bit of money, got a car that was building my credit back up after the voluntary repossession. Life was good, except for the little health challenges. Went to the Czech Republic in August, and when I returned, the motor went out of my car. I had applied to work at the school district that I am now. I was to start September the 2nd, and my motor went out of my car the day that I was supposed to start. So I asked them, could I wait? They prolonged it till September the 12th. And now I had to figure out how I was going to get to work. Gave up where I was living to move to a hotel near the job. When I tell you your savings looks good for a while, but when you don't have transportation and trying to take Uber and pay for a hotel, that money go quick. It goes quick. And for the people that be like, oh, the singles got it made because you don't got to take care of other people, you should always have money. That's absolutely not true. But I stayed the course. I went to work, and I stayed in this very challenging atmosphere on the north side of Houston. I thought to myself, oh, if I get a couple of paychecks, I can go get a car and I'll be good. And it took longer than expected. It was November, Thanksgiving week, before I moved into my apartment and before I had another piece of transportation. So I'm like, okay, we're back on our feet. We got a place to stay. We got a car to drive. This year is going to end on a good note. The year ended on a good note. But January 2025, what is it with the Januaries? We had the snow. After the snow, I did not return back to work due to some health challenges. This time, from January to March, I was ill with no income. The short-term disability insurance that I had didn't pay out till April, which was on time because the little piece of card that I had bought from the little no lot, it went out in April. So the back payments that they paid me was just enough to put a down payment on a nicer car. But it wasn't in time to avoid eviction. I went through all the appeals because I had the money to now pay them. And then we came to agreement to let me out of my lease. I was kind of upset because I was like, I just got this place and it's going to be harder to find another place because rent is expensive. But June 19th, 2025, which is the day that my mother was found deceased, I moved into a new place where I reside now. This new place is a lot better than where I'm living. The gates work. Our maintenance is on point. It is very quiet, and it's crazy because I'm like 2 blocks from where I was living. I don't get contact from people smoking, if you know what I'm talking about, walking through the apartment complex. There's no loud music all night long. It's just peace. I haven't had peace in a very long time like this. I don't think I've ever experienced this. And that same friend that I was talking to, it's been about 6 months, where she said, I'm addicted to dysfunction, or I like dysfunction, or something like that. And I got to thinking about my life, my marriage, my relationship with my mom. Although it was healthy in the end, there was a lot of dysfunction there. Even some of my experiences with jobs. There's a lot of dysfunction. And so I've been working on not complaining about situations and not seeking out to be a part of dysfunction. Because sometimes when you're used to the craziness, you can't handle peace. When things are good, you got to look for something that is wrong. And so that has been my goal coming into 2026. We're just a few days in, but working on focusing on the good. Future. Over the summer, last summer, I prayed for a different job. I went on interviews, but I ended up at the same job under different circumstances, better circumstances. When I think about my future, I thought I would retire as an educator, but that desire has changed. I hope that my single and solo season doesn't last forever. Although I try to be content in God and what He has for me and this season, there are things that happen in my life that make me say, I really wish I had a companion. How the year ended for me in December, because as I said, I haven't arrived yet. Those challenges still come. And this message I've shared a lot. And you're probably like, oh, she had a lot going on. But it's not that I'm trying to highlight the negative of my life. One, I want you to know God is a restorer of all things. He's a provider. He is a healer. But I felt the need to share those things because there is somebody listening that says, oh my gosh, I keep running into these challenges. Oh my gosh, it seems when things get good, here's another challenge. And I just want you to know, you are not alone. December 21st, I was doing the liquid diet to prepare for an annual colonoscopy. It was going to be my first. The morning of December 22nd, about 3 a.m., I got up to go to the bathroom and I felt nauseated. I woke up face down on the floor in a lot of pain and I could taste blood. And what was going through my mind is I've done this whole liquid diet to do this colonoscopy. And now if I call EMS, I'm going to miss that appointment. But if I don't call EMS, I don't know if I've broken something because my neck was in pain and it's still uncomfortable. When I got up, I had busted my lip open. It was bleeding. It was huge. And EMS came and took me to the hospital and checked me out. Thankfully, nothing was broken. And although nothing was broken, I am still alive. That moment still resides with me about what could have happened. The doctor said I was dehydrated, that it happens to people often trying to do the liquid diet to prepare for that procedure. But I also know that since July of 2014, every 2 to 3 years, I have a fainting spell. Usually it does not result in injury. The last one, February 2024, where I bit through my tongue, was an injury as well. And so I can say what I desire, what the future to look like, but I know I don't control it. I do pray for a better clarity from Christ as I consider this the year of submission, of what he wants of me and not necessarily what I want to do for my comforts. So as you make your prayer and your vision boards and set your goals for 2026, remember you are a work in process. And it is okay if you haven't arrived yet. I am Everett Maxine, and I would like to thank you for listening to The Absence of Her podcast. Please remember to like and to share and to comment.